Alrighty, here we go. My name is Travis Neville. This is the Travis Neville Podcast. I wrote this book called Reviving Masculinity. You can get it any damn where. I'm very proud of it. It's a lot of work, a lot of research. It even has a nice feel to the cover. So go pick one up if you're enjoying the show. Show your appreciation by buying a book. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Walmart. Just Google Reviving Masculinity. It will come up, or you can Google my name, Travis Neville, and you can buy a copy from my website if you do it that way. I'll send you one signed. Yeah, so that's how that's going. I got a chance to talk to Tanner Guzy. He's a really impressive guy. Wrote a book called The Appearance of Power. He is a guy who's very into style. I think that's the overarching term. I think that would work for what he does. I read his book. It was fantastic. A lot of good information in there. I recommend it if you have any aspirations of dressing well. As I sit here dressed in a sweet Have a Kick-Ass Day t-shirt from my buddy Sven Erlandson, if you have any aspirations of having some style, he's a guy that you want to look to. Watch his, follow his posts, look at his social media, read his book. Look into him. He's an impressive guy, and I had a great conversation with him, and I look forward to having future conversations with this guy. We'll stay in touch, I'm sure of that. Real approachable guy, good dude. Anyway, I hope that my conversation with Tanner Guzy in some way helps you to get your shit together. Have a great week. Start recording right now. I'll cut in whenever. How'd you end up in Salt Lake? What do you like? I mean, I've heard awesome
Born
things
and raised
about
here.
It. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Never left, huh?
Yeah. So it makes it really easy. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's dig in, man. How'd you get going on this path? I mean, let me preface that. I read your book, and honestly, I get that question all the time too. So I'm always interested in what gets other guys going.
Mm-hmm.
Read your book, cover to cover. I've been checking out your posts and all that. And what makes this the thing for you? Why go try to help people, dude? Why not just live your life and enjoy it? Why help other men?
Man, that's a good question. I kind of fell into this bass backwards a little bit in that it was something that I was interested in. Style has always been a method of not only communication for other people or
Sure.
between me and other people, but also a really big part of my own kind of identity and my own sense of self. And to be honest, I think I'm just one of those loudmouths who not only do I feel like I have the answers to give to people, but, and I just heard this recently, like when people talk about extroverts and introverts, they think about as like, are your batteries charged by hanging out with people or by being on your own. But one of the other descriptors of it that I heard that really kind of resonated is true extroverts are people that you can't really formulate your ideas internally. You have to do it externally, whether that's recording something and putting it up on social media or having a conversation with somebody else or something like that. And I'm definitely an extrovert in that regard. And so half the time I'm saying stuff, whether it's in a conversation or I'm posting something up on social media, and it's more just because I'm trying to figure things out for myself than like, oh, I've got the answers and I'm so benevolent, I'm going to share them with everybody else. Most of the time it's like, I'm just trying to figure this crap out as I go too. So yeah.
No, man, I get that, dude. When I pick a title or some topic that I want to hit for a podcast or somebody I want to talk to, just that process of researching it and going through the show and organizing my thoughts. I have a lot of times I have a different opinion at the end than I had at the beginning. So I mean, I think that's like it's a form of therapy almost to to work that way. But you were you were working for a suitor. I don't want to call it the wrong name, but you were working for a company that I assume makes a tailor. What do you call somebody?
Custom suit company. Sure. Yeah.
And you were doing that.
That was actually after I started writing Masculine Style. I got that job because of the blog. I worked for a credit union when I started the blog. Yeah.
Dude, that's so common. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it was one of those things where like I have a degree in broadcast journalism. It did not go anywhere that I expected it to. I worked for a credit union when I started the blog. And it was actually because of that. Like I was in Salt Lake, and Salt Lake being the mecca of menswear, like it's where everybody thinks of when it comes to like, right? Like
yeah. The Paris of the West.
right? I've just got so many options when it comes to
Sure,
all
sure.
these clothiers to choose from, right?
Yeah.
So there's, one company, and I reach out to
Hmm.
those guys. Ended up just going in, introducing myself, trying to see if like, hey, can I do an interview for you for the site? And I left a few hours later with a job offer. And it's like, okay, cool. You're going to pay me as much as I make at the credit union. I get to be involved in an industry that I think is pretty cool.
Something I like.
And you don't care if I keep writing about it as we keep going. This is a win-win-win. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a winner. And then the book came about as a result. I like that you said that. You said, "Hey, a lot of the things that I'm going to say in this book, they're things that you will have heard in my blog."
Mm-hmm.
And I do the same thing. I mean, with my book, the new one, there's a ton of stuff that, as I said, I worked out the details as I was running the podcast. So I love that you introduced it that way. But
Yeah.
I love the title, man. Appearance of Power. It just, I think it speaks to exactly what you're trying to do with it. I mean, and it's catchy and it's got all that stuff. It's got all the marketing hook and all those things that you hear about as an author. But I love it, man. I mean, obviously you're talking about clothing but personal style is so much more than just the how you decorate yourself. I mean, it's
Totally.
such a big part of it. It's how you carry yourself and how you talk and how your confidence level is and all of that stuff. And I don't know, is it cart or the horse? Is it you dress really well because you think highly of you have that confidence, or is it I mean, which one comes first?
It's funny because I thought for a lot of years that it was the thing that it's a real easy win. And so if you just start off by getting your style improved, then you're going to be able to, get over the hump of, I don't quite have the confidence that I want to, or things aren't going in the direction that I want them to. But I found that those are the guys that when I worked with them as clients or helped them out, it never really stuck. And they always felt like they were kind of fakes as they were doing it.
It's going to use that
It
word
felt like
fake.
they
Yeah.
were posing. Exactly. Right. And so instead I found that it's the guys that are already making some level of progress. They're leveling up in something. They've got their
Hmm.
physique styled and their fitness is on point. They're doing well
Hmm.
in work or in business. They've been able to manage improving or building or fixing relationships where they're like, okay, I've got some wins under my belt now, and I need to see somebody different in the mirror than what I currently see. I need to somebody who's actually more reflective of who I am,
Well,
somebody
yeah.
that does have some wins in their corner, as
Yeah.
opposed to somebody who doesn't. And so, yeah, I would say more often than not, you're better off making more meaningful progress in your life and then improving your style, as opposed to starting with your style and hoping that's going to lead to other things. Now, that said, once you get your style dialed, it continues that kind of like virtuous cycle of you start to feel more confident, people treat you better, so you start stacking more wins 100%. But I would say it's not the best way to get started.
I gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, if you don't know who you are, how do you know what your style is? I feel like
Exactly.
you've said that many times that how you dress is very reflective of who you are. And
Right.
the one story you were talking about was, I think it was an uncle of yours, and he had to get a suit for a funeral, I believe it was,
Mm-hmm.
and you got him into a flannel. I can't remember exactly how you described it. Anyway,
No,
you
that's
got
perfect.
him
Yeah.
comfortable, and it worked for him because it was him. It was who he
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. I mean, he's a total like recluse. You think of shows like Yellowstone or 1883. This is kind of
Sure.
set in the part of the world where my uncle lives, and he is this very like extremely introverted, reclusive, rugged cowboy of a man who he likes his
Awesome.
falcons and his birds and his pets better than he likes most people. Has never had any real reason to care about something, and then his mom dies, and he wants to dress in a way that's appropriate to honor her memory, but he also doesn't want to go feeling like a monkey in a suit. He doesn't want to feel like
Right.
he's just having to perform. And so he came and asked me. And so it was really fun to be able to get him something that could check both of those boxes and allow him to be present to both mourn his mom's passing and celebrate her life, honor her wishes, but still feel like he was himself. It was cool to get to do that for him.
Yeah, that's neat. I think that's a perfect example of when style becomes incredibly important in a situation
Mm-hmm.
like that. It can either be a barrier on one end or a barrier on the other. You're wearing, like you said, a monkey suit and you feel uncomfortable the whole time, or you're underdressed. You're comfortable, but you're underdressed. People might be looking at you, fitting that notch. That's sometimes that's a challenge, and good for you that you're
It
there to help
really
some
is.
guys do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. I love to get to do it.
So, changing gears a little bit, the 21 convention, you were involved with that, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. For a few years, actually, I think, My first time was in 2016, and I'm not speaking this year, but I've been involved every year since then. So quite a while. Yeah.
Well, what is it, man? I mean, I'm a newbie. I've been doing this for 3 years. I've
Mhm,
only got 2 books out. My newest book's called Reviving Masculinity. You know, all that stuff.
mhm.
I just, from a very selfish perspective, I wonder where I might fit in. Is it a thing that I should
Cool.
go to and watch? What do I'm obviously, like I said, I'm a content creator and a writer. I guess I just don't know that much about it. What
Cool.
is it?
Yeah.
What's it all about?
So it started by my friend Anthony Johnson, who's actually been running it for years, 16, 17 years now at this point. And basically it's a convention for men who are trying to be better men. It's interesting how it's evolved over the years. When I first went back in 2016, it felt very much like a pickup convention. And I was definitely the odd
See,
man
that's
out
what I
where
didn't
I'm
want. I don't want that, dude.
right.
I'm 45 years old. I don't need that shit. I learned how
Exactly.
to pick up
Right.
women a long time ago. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for a lot of years, that's what it was. And part of it's because that's the stage of life that Anthony was in. That's a lot of, and I mean, you think about kind of like the online men's movement, the manosphere, however big of a nest we want to cast. A lot of it started with pickup, where they started this kind of like self-development. And this is how 21 was for sure. And then you saw it kind of start to go into red pill territory, and
Mhm.
you saw speakers and creators that were coming in that were that way. But a few years ago, he started to expand it into bigger and broader, deeper things related to masculinity. He started these kind of like there's an additional stage in a separate room that's the patriarch edition, which is essentially all catered towards fatherhood, being a
Oh,
husband,
cool.
being a father, how it all correlates with that.
Yeah, that's where I'm
He's
coming
starting
from.
to bring in, yeah, right. He's starting to bring
Hmm.
in other guys that are tackling things from an artistic perspective, a culture perspective. We did a panel last year that was the red pill and religion, and which one of the things I love about Anthony is he is like a card carrying objectivist atheist, does not believe in religion whatsoever,
Yeah,
but
but
he
there's a lot.
lets
I catch notes. Sorry to interrupt you, but I keep catching stuff from his emails, and there's
mhm,
some lot of religion involved in that thing.
a
He's
lot of
bringing in a
religion,
lot of this stuff.
and he loves letting, he's got quite a few guys. Like, I can be totally open about my faith. He's got pastors and preachers from other Christian faiths or other, really kind of anything, and they come in and they talk about how God relates to masculinity. And so that's one of the things that I really love about Anthony is, as long as you are very actively pro masculinity and pro positive masculinity, not reactionary masculinity,
Right. Well
he will
said.
he will give you a stage to be able to talk on and be able to share your message, because he believes that there's room for all of that. So he's done a good job with it.
You call him your friend. I mean, you know him pretty well. Like you vouch for this
Yeah.
guy. He's
Yeah.
a good dude.
Yeah. And I will tell you that he's bombastic. Anthony, the way that he presents himself online, the way that he is on stage, the way that he is, the way that he posts on Twitter, especially when you see him, like he's very much like Trump, in that he
Okay.
understands how to push people's buttons and how to twist the shiv and how to get reactions. And I would also say that in a lot of ways, he's like Trump in that he believes in what he says. And I also know that there have been plenty of times where he's said things and I've seen it on social media, and I'm just like, holy crap, dude. Like, oh, I can't believe you're going this far, that I'm
Hey, you go
associating
way
with
out.
this again.
Well, is he
Right.
just stirring the pot? Is it a marketing thing? I mean, because that's a
Well,
part of what we do.
but
Let's
it's
be
not.
honest.
It is, but it's not, because when I hear just stirring the pot, it's like, I don't really believe this. I'm just doing this because it's necessary for marketing. Anthony may turn it up 2 or 3 degrees compared to what it would
Okay.
be normally.
So
But
he
then when I get a chance to
accentuates.
talk to him, right. And when I
Okay.
get a chance to talk to him and you hear kind of the full context, it's like, okay, I actually get where you're coming from. I still don't agree with it, but I get where you're coming from. And so I would call him a friend. We
Okay.
disagree on a lot of stuff. We
Well,
disagree
that's
a lot
okay.
on
You can
tactics.
disagree
We
with
disagree on
friends.
a lot of other stuff, but I would call him a friend, and I think he does a good job with what he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I look at the list of the guys that are there, and the ones that I'm familiar with are all. I couldn't be more supportive. I mean, like Jack. I
Mhm.
mean, I mentioned Jack
Yeah.
Q. He's a guy. I never got a chance to meet him in person so far, but I've had a
Oh, dude,
chance
you
to
got to
talk to
go
him on
just
the.
to get a chance to hang out with Jack. Yeah.
He seems like a great dude. I've talked to him on the phone a couple of times, and I'll get into a jam, or like I remember the first question I asked him was, I had this PR thing that happened via my football coaching career, and
Mhm.
it ended up giving me a bunch of turds on social media. And I call him like,
Uh-huh.
man, how do you do this, man? What do you do? Do you have like a separate Facebook that's just you, or do and he really guided me through that. I mean,
Cool.
cleverly. He knew exactly what to
Yeah.
do, and A couple other times I've called him, and it's nice that he answers. And he's available. It's the coolest thing. And I mean, he's this big time guy known all over the world, and he'll answer my phone calls, which is pretty damn cool.
Rad, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. So he's pretty cool in person.
Dude, Jack's genuine like that, where we've become really close friends over the last few years. We're running a magazine together.
Chest, is that
my
you're in
wife
that?
and kids? Yeah. It's
Okay,
Chest
cool.
magazine, and that's been a really fun project.
But
I think my wife kind of puts it the best, where Jack is exactly what he portrays himself to be. Again,
good.
like very masculine, very focused on aesthetic and story and myth and ethos and all of these other things. But one of the things that I think doesn't come across online, and it's not because he goes out of his way to hide it, but just because he's so focused on presenting this other stuff. But Jack's kind of got a little sparkle in his eyes, and he's funny, and he's very genuine and fun to be around, and very nice. And my wife really just loves being around him. My kids have enjoyed getting to, grab dinner with him. And, we've done, we were in Cancun together for an event, and he got to spend time with my kids and everything. And he's one of those guys who does a very good job of being masculine and intimidating, but not intimidating to the point where kids don't want to be around him, or women are just like, I don't want anything to do with this guy. Like he's got a really good balance there with that.
He doesn't seem at all unapproachable, not in any way. I mean,
no, that's probably a good way to do it. Intimidating, but not unapproachable.
Yeah, he seems like that. That's pretty cool. And what a little bit more about that event, just out of my own personal curiosity. It's a few days. It's where do they host it? Is it,
so this is the thing that Ryan Mickler from Order of Man.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, he kind of put this together and reached out to a few of us as content creators. And that ended up being one of the ways that we created an event that we did this year called Man Uncaged. And it was really fun because we got to be partnered up with like Bedros Keuilian and John Lovell from Warrior Poet Society, Stephen Mansfield, Matt Bodrow, who runs a bunch of acting academies, like a bunch of really high caliber dudes. Yeah.
You're talking about the Cancun thing. I asked about 21 convention, but I'm very interested in what you're saying.
Sorry. Yes.
I'm very interested in what you're saying.
Yeah.
I saw some pictures, I think that Jack posted, of you guys standing on the beach in Cancun. So yeah, I knew Ryan was involved in that. I think he's kind of at the forefront of this stuff, man. When I watch Ryan's social media, there's a part of me, I can't help but admit it, but it gets under my skin because he's doing it. He's where I want to be. And I'm like, fuck, that guy's way up here. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like everything he does, I'm like, man, I want to be doing that. So I know I got to keep watching it. That's a pride thing. But he impresses me too. His stuff is good. I mean, everybody can see that
too.
Yeah, he does, man. He never stops grinding. I think he's in Maine, but he moved from, he lived in, used to live
in Utah. Yep. He was about 3-4 hours south of me. Yeah. And we met right like the week that he was getting Order of Man started. You talk about how you feel about it. How do you think I feel, where I was one of like the influencers that he came and got excited to meet, and then within a year he just far and away surpassed me. Yeah. But it's been really fun to see. He's done such a good job of not softening his message at all.
I agree.
Making it mainstream palatable in a way that a lot of other guys haven't. Mickler appeals to normies in a way that a lot of other guys in the men's space have not been able to. And I'm really stoked to see the growth that he's accomplished.
Normies. This is a term I need to know.
I just think about like a normal person, like your average guy. He's not like extremely online, or he's not like super red pilled or super whatever else. Just like a normal dude. Because a lot of us, we live in kind of these online bubbles, and you talk about Jack's known all over the world, but he's really known all over the world in like our small sphere. But Mickler is probably one of the closest guys to getting into the mainstream level of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I consider him like how Garth Brooks made country music popular in the 90s. He was watered down is certainly the wrong term, but more appealing to the masses, right? I mean, like that. That's how he's done it. And good for him. I think that's obviously a huge work ethic and incredible sales mind. I mean, the guy did I don't know, he's in like financial planning or something. That's, you got to be a salesman to do that. People got to be confident in you to give you that kind of money. Anyway, so you recommend it though. I mean, that the 21 convention, it's a thing where a normie can go there, or I mean, you bring your wife.
Plan on being offended. Plan on having your butt.
I love that.
Right. I mean, and that's how it's been for me as a speaker, where every year there's always at least one guy that's on stage. And it's like, holy crap, there's no way I'm getting anywhere near that guy, because that's just so different from my mindset. But it's good to be it's good to be in that kind of environment, especially for you as a content creator and somebody who's in this space with us, to get to network and rub shoulders and kind of associate with some of the other guys. It's totally worth going and attending. Yeah.
So more about you, man. You got a family.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't mind my digging in, your first wife, your first set of kids. You're making it work the traditional
Second
way.
wife, actually. I'd been previously married.
Okay. And
yeah,
what was you don't have to share all the details, but a lot of my content specifically deals with male-female relations, because I happen to be a single guy, and most of my readers are, and most of my viewers are. So that transition from being married the first time to the second time, I wonder how easy was that? How bumpy was that for you? How did you know she was the right one when you came into your current relationship?
it was pretty easy to recognize the things that were good and desirable about her, because it was the things that my first wife really kind of obviously lacked.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it made it really easy. And at the same time, especially because, all right, I've got a buddy who's almost kind of perpetually single. Or I would say like a serial monogamist,
Okay.
And one of the things that I think is really hard for guys in his position is that you find that they get to the point where they want to end up with a woman who is the culmination of all the good things they've dated and all their previous girls, and none of the bad things that they've
Which
had,
is impossible.
and it's impossible, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, having had dated quite a bit, but really, having just had that marriage, and it was 3 years and we didn't have any kids.
Same for me, man. I went 3 years and no kids myself. Keep
gotcha.
going.
Right. Okay. So for me, it was pretty easy. Like I met my current wife. I met Bracaley as that first marriage was falling apart. We got involved really quickly, and it was super easy to just be like, okay, this is what I wanted, because this is not any of the negatives that I was dealing with before. Now we're 11 years into this. Tomorrow's our 11-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And what we found is that there's still a lot of work that goes into
always
this.
Work,
and
right?
You have seasons of things that seem like they're good, or one person is doing well and the other person isn't. And there's, especially because you add in 5 kids, we've got a 6 on the way. You add in
Wow, dude, that's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you. It's a lot, it's a lot of
Sure
pressure.
It is.
You add in self-employment, you add in family of origin, and kind of like what it was like for me growing up, and what my own hangups and emotional things are, what it was like for her, and how do you balance that out. And I think one of the best things about marriage is also one of the hardest things about it, is that you cannot be a persona and have it last. You can have it last 10 years, but at some point it's going to blow up if you are just a persona, as opposed to being a person. And the genuine article, and growing, and also dealing with what your own failings and weaknesses and what your demons actually are too.
And I think that speaks right to exactly what we're trying to do in this sphere. I think the most important skill, I'd say, for any adults, but specifically for men, is that ability to recognize your own shortcomings and honestly analyze them and attack them and adjust. And, not just for the situation that you're in, be it a relationship or a work environment, but just for you to say, you know what, I want to be the best that I can be. I wonder for you, what were some of those things that you had to, the hurdles you had to cross?
So I haven't crossed them yet. I'm in the middle of them, and it's been really hard because.
Well, then you are crossing them. You are crossing
them. Right. Okay. So a couple of the things that I've learned about myself are, I'm really uptight. Like really uptight, and it makes me not a good dad in a lot of ways, and makes me not a good husband in a lot of ways.
You mean like short-tempered, don't have the patience, that sort of thing?
And it's not, there's the short temper is part of it, but even then, like even just expressions of irritation, it's not like I'm beating on anybody or screaming at my wife or my kids all the time, but I'm just kind of perpetually irritated because things don't live up to what my standards are. Or when they do, then I just don't acknowledge it, because it's like, good, you met my standards. And so there's not a lot of like positive reinforcement. There's a lot of negative. And part of it is because that's the environment I grew up in. That's the way that I treat myself.
I was gonna say, sounds like your dad.
Right. And it's turned into the ability to do things. Like a lot of my ambition comes from that, but I need to be able to hold on to the good that comes from that. And at the same time, I need to learn how to relax. I need to learn how to be able to not just
It's a skill.
distract myself, but actually
Yeah.
relax and calm
Yep.
down and enjoy things. I need to remember how to play and have fun and to be able to do. And so I've got the work and the grind stuff down really well, to the point where it was a strength. It's become so exaggerated that it's turned into a weakness. And so I need to hold on to the strengths, not abandon those, but at the same time, start to develop the counter strengths of relax and play and connect, as opposed to just grind, work, and, be uptight and have all these ridiculous standards. Because yeah, my wife is a great person and my kids are good, obedient kids, but they're also kind of constantly living in this tension of like, what's dad going to do? Or what's Tanner going to do? Or, is he inconsistent about this or whatever else? And so I've got a lot to work through as far as being able to confront what my shortcomings are and the effect that it has on other people, and even the effect that it has on me. Like, dude, I find myself waking up in the middle of the night with my hands asleep because I clench my fists so hard, even at night when I'm asleep, because I'm just constant tension. It's like, dude, your health is not what it should be. Your mental health isn't what it should be. Your relationship with God isn't what it should be. Your relationship with your family isn't what it should be, because you're just trying to push through and work harder instead of learning how to just freaking relax and remembering what it's like to play and have a good time. And so that's what I'm trying to work on right now.
Well, I tell you, I think that's got to be more common than not, especially among successful people, right? I mean, that's how you get to the top. You get, and honestly, if it helps you any, I would rather be in a situation where I've got to pull on the reins a little bit than crack the whip. You've got the work ethic down. All you got to do is downshift a little bit, right? So that sounds like a thing that for you would be at least a positive potential outcome. Hey, if I do this right, I'm going to experience more happiness. You know what I mean? So there's a tremendous upside there.
Absolutely. There's a huge one. And I think the hardest thing is even the language that we use. And this is not to, I'm going to push back on you a little bit, because
push back.
We even think about it as like, I'm going to let off the gas, which is that I can't maintain my same level of ambition while also learning how to relax. And I don't think that's the case. The way that I'm trying to envision this, and this is hard because I'm not seeing this from anybody else. It's almost like trying to discover my own system, but I see it as like three legs of a stool, where you have work, relax, and play. And you need equal parts of all three of them. And so it's not that I need to let off of the work, but it's that I need to lean more on the relax and the play. So that's not, because I think a lot of times we turn into, well, if I stop working, I'm just going to turn into a lazy bum. And then I'm just going to, I'm going to lose all my ambition. And there's a fear.
That's that voice in the back of your head, right? I know what you're saying.
There's this fear of I have to let go of my strengths in order to develop their counter strengths, but you don't have to let go. You just have to lean off of it a little bit and get it back to where it's a strength instead of a weakness that comes from being one-dimensional in your own perception of who you are.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense for sure. And the play for you, I imagine, with all those kids, you're going to have a lot of opportunities to do it.
Right, but dude, it's so hard because they're little, and play with little kids gets kind of tedious, especially because I got 4 girls, and a fifth on the way. And I grew up in a household full of boys. And it's even one of those things where I look back on, I try and do the things that I remember being fun when I was a kid and a teenager, where it's like, I have a BMX bike and I'll go to the skate park, or I will I'll take my kids up skiing and I'll go, but it's not fun anymore. I get stressed out about it because I get in my head about it. And so even for me, like trying to find something that is actually fun for the sake of fun and that I can get out of my head and just get immersed in it is really this kind of journey right now. Like last weekend, we went up boating with some friends, and it was just adults. There were 5 of us couples, and there was about 20 seconds where I was on the surfboard behind the boat, and I caught the pocket and I was pumping the wave, and I just forgot everything. Like I could just enjoy riding that. And it's like, okay, I need to chase that. I need more of that in my life. And so it's trying to discover more of what can create that for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's crazy you mentioned water, because as you keep talking about this, I think about, I was in Lake Michigan yesterday, and swimming as a kid. Oh my God. It was the coolest thing in the world. It was the coolest thing in the world. And I had some buddies and we were getting some work done, and it was hotter than hell. And I'm like, hey, you know what, you guys, let's just go hit the lake for a little bit. We just still had our work shoes on and everything. And we walked right out in the water, and it was like, I was 8 years old again, man. Water has that, one of those cool, unique things that can
Yep.
maybe bring that
Give me
for
a
you,
cliff
dude.
to jump off of, or a diving board
Yeah.
or something else, and I can do that for a few hours for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a lot of water in well, there's the Great Salt Lake, but it's salt
There
water,
is a
right?
lot of reservoirs and a lot of, yeah, I
Okay.
mean, there's plenty of opportunities around here for sure. Yeah.
And is it just that one? This is my ignorance with geography. I used to teach high school English, but I did
Oh,
not
cool.
teach
Yeah.
geography. So, the Salt Lake, Great Salt Lake's obviously salt. Are there inland
Hmm.
lakes that are not salt water that are near you?
Yes. Yeah. That's the
Okay.
one that is, because it's basically the one that all the other, like the big major system feeds into, and it doesn't give anything out. Like there's no river coming
Okay.
out of it. So it just gathers there. But the one that's actually like a 5-minute walk from we are is Utah Lake, which feeds into the Salt Lake. And it's great. Like our next door neighbors have a wave runner. We can go out and go play out there. I probably should buy a paddle board or something else, but
Yeah.
like we're close to some good natural water. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard Daniel Tosh say that money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you a jet ski. And it's pretty
Right.
hard to be unhappy on
It
a
can
jet
buy the
ski.
toys.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
pretty damn happy.
Exactly.
It's interesting to hear you say that, man. I saw one of your clips. You talked about how that you're not able to execute in your life maybe as well as the standard that you're putting out there for everyone, that
Hmm.
you fail too, just like everyone else does. And I've
Totally.
had that conversation with men as well. Same thing, hey, what I'm giving you is a standard to shoot for. Realize you're most of the time you're not going to get there, but it's the striving, right? And that's why I said that, you have hurdles to overcome that you haven't overcome, but you're overcoming them. That's all you need to do. You need to be
Hmm.
doing it, to work at it, right?
Right. And once I
Another
overcome these, then the next ones will reveal themselves and I get to work on those. And yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And transitioning from there, one of the things that another thing that you said that I was very interested in, you said you don't want to be the 21st or the 20th century man that was so emotionally handicapped. And you don't like this androgynous version that we have today of
Hmm.
masculinity, but there's got to be, and you use the word integrated, there's got to be an integrated, like kind of middle ground. What is that exactly? What defines that?
I
I
don't
mean, I
know.
think
This
I
is
can
one
nail
of those
that,
things.
but I
You
want to hear what you
do.
think.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is one of the things that I kind of lament with my friends or with my wife, like people who understand this, because you look at the men who fought in World War I and World War II, and you look
Toughest
at
men
things
alive.
like their heroism
Yep.
and their dedication and their honor and all of that. And they were phenomenal in that regard. And then you look at what they were when they came home, and the fact that they were terrified of emotion, or they were just broken emotionally, and that emotion
Right.
wasn't something that men experienced. And you look at happiness or play or fun, and none of that was
They
something
didn't do it.
that
Yep.
was yeah, it was work and work, and you raise your kids like they were in the military. And I think if you go back to previous generations, okay, emotion is one of those that's really been kind of poignant for me lately. I have a brother who just passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear
He
that,
just
dude. That
passed away.
sucks.
Thank you. And you look at other cultures, and they would, like they would do sackcloth and ashes, or they would rip their robes in part as a public display of mourning, or even like people that were as stuffy and as stiff as like the Victorian British would still wear black for 6 months as a public display of mourning. And we're told you're only allowed to cry or show any sort of public emotion at your dad's funeral or when your dog dies. And if not, then you're not a real man. And there's so many other cultures that have integrated both the feeling and the experience of feeling emotions, but also a healthy masculine expression of emotions. And we've created this false paradigm of either you feel it, but you don't express it, or the only way to express it is like a woman. And so you're a woman if you do it. And so we don't have
Yeah,
a
you're right.
positive masculine relationship with emotions at all. Just like we no longer have a positive masculine relationship with art or music or
Culture.
dancing or really anything related to culture. We've just
Hmm.
turned that all over to women and to effeminate men. And I don't want to be part of that. I want to be bigger and better than just the 1950s post-war heroic but broken version of what man was. Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be a hybrid there, and I would like to think that guys like you and I and Jack and Ryan are developing that hybrid where we can be open and verbal about our emotions and discuss it. If nowhere else than with each other, I
Mm-hmm.
talk, like I said, with the guys on my crew. I'll talk to them. Hey, man, this is what happened, blah blah, and I encourage them to talk to me about that stuff. Let's get it
Mm-hmm.
figured out between us, and then when you go, talk to your wife about it or your girlfriend, then you're much more dialed in with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not putting that
Absolutely.
burden on her, but you've dealt with it and you've managed some things, and so you're going to be much more effective. You don't have to just be like you said, that crying, whimpering,
Right.
sort of that effeminate version of a woman.
Right.
Yeah, and I wonder what's the mechanism, right? I mean, like for me, that's why I wrote the book. Hey, here's a thing here's my solution to it. This is what I see, where I see manhood going, and I'm not really comfortable with it. This is where I think it should be. Here are the things that you should have learned, uh, even though you were raised by a single mom, so you never really had a great female role model. All your teachers were female. So these are the things you should learn. So that's how I'm trying to push it forward. That's the mechanism for me. Here's how I'm trying to help. For you, you're doing it in the same way. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're helping individual men develop their confidence and enhance and influence and really fan that flame of masculinity. So I assume that's the mechanism that you're using. And then you also have the ability to reach out to other guys who are at a high level doing what we do here to do the same thing.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think clothing is a really good way to do this because it's one of those subjects that in the 20th century, we were told that it's taboo for men to care about this. But again, you zoom out and you look at any history and any culture, and men have always cared about their appearance. They've always used it as a way to signal status and masculinity and all of that. It's a very integrated part of masculinity. And it's also one of those things that guys they're very reticent to think about. And then as soon as they kind of say, you know what, screw it, I'm going to try this anyway. They find themselves feeling and seeing themselves as more masculine, as more integrated, as more developed, as more competent, as more heroic, as more noble, as more capable, as all of these other good attributes.
And that's that cycle you were talking about.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. It's awesome that you have that outlet. And I got to tell you, thank you so much, man. Like I said, as a guy who's just starting in this, you're way up there. You're so advanced. You get to go do all these cool things, and to have you get a chance to talk to you one-on-one is a really cool opportunity. I appreciate you taking the time. Yeah. Any other questions for me?
No, man, I've loved getting to be on the show. I'm excited to hear. I really go check out 21. Go do it. Next time we do Man Uncaged, come meet me for that. Come meet Jack and it's one of those things where, and this is why I love what Ryan is doing, and Anthony does this to a large extent too, is that this whole idea of masculine self-development, there's a lot of people focusing on it in a lot of different ways. And a lot of us kind of create our own bubbles of influence that don't connect very much.
Yeah. And we got to connect them.
We have to connect them, because what we're doing, even though it's not rooted, it's not defining itself as being counterculture. There are guys that do it that way. And I think that there's weakness in that, but it is very countercultural, and mainstream culture doesn't want us to connect. It doesn't want us to be able to network. It doesn't want us to be reliant on each other. It wants us isolated. And so things like this are things, what you're doing with the show, going to events like that, the more we can integrate that network, the better off we're all going to be.
And that's Man Uncaged for my readers and listeners. Where is that and when is it?
So we don't have the next one planned yet. The last one we did was it was in California. It was in May, and it went off great. So I'm excited to talk to Mickler and Bedros and Lovell and all of these guys and figure out what the next iteration of that is going to be, because that's been a really fun one to do. Yeah.
Well, I will stay in touch with you on that. I hope you would, if it pops into your head, let me know. Hey, Travis, it's going to be at this certain time, and I will get there, and I'll promote it to as best as I can and grind from there. But Tanner, thanks again, man. You shared a lot today, and I'd love to, we'll stay in touch, man. We'll keep grinding and working together to close those bubbles.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Travis. It's been a blast, man.
Have a good one, bud.